It is just another day that the Lord has kept us. He's protected us from all evil, and for that, we are absolutely glad and we are grateful. Rejoice always, and again, I say rejoice. The reality, friends, colleagues, and comrades from the cross, that we are in a 5-alarm crisis globally, and we've come this far by faith. Estimates from the CDC and the World Health Organization suggest that because of this COVID-19 crisis just here in the United States, more people have died than 9/11, Vietnam, and Pearl Harbor, and yet the grace of God has kept us alive. It is mind-blowing to know that just a few days ago, the presiding bishop of Global United Fellowship, Bishop Neil Ellis, who joins us and is online with us, has a burden for transition and change in this climate, that our churches will not just survive, but thrive. He entrusted me with the responsibility of galvanizing our clinicians who are going to share on this day, so that we would be in lockstep towards how it is that we come through the wilderness en route to the promise. I want to thank our illustrious presider, Bishop Neil Ellis, headquartered in Nassau, for affording and allotting me this opportunity to galvanize all of you on this day. In just a 2-day notice, in just 2 days, we have been able to galvanize 750 pastors. And I want to extend greetings to all of you who are with us. Let me extend high commendation to the vice bishops of the Global United Fellowship, Bishop Harold Ray, Bishop Odom, Bishop Carolyn Showell, Bishop McCarter, and of course, Bishop Brooks. We extend greetings as well to Bishop Woodson and to all of the rank and file of leaders within the Global United Fellowship. Bishop Ellis, thank you again for extending us this opportunity. Before we go a step further and we introduce our first presenter, let's go to God in a word of prayer. Good and gracious God, merciful Master, and forgiving Father, we thank you for giving us ears to hear, hearts to receive, and minds to expand. We pray that this coming together will not be in vain, but this will be a catapult for all of us to jump into the future and to glean the direction in which you are taking your beloved church. Strengthen all of us so that we do not become weary in well-doing. It's in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Dr. King, in his last book, was entitled The Urgency of Now. It was the follow-up to Why We Can't Wait. And that's where it is that we are now, 8 weeks out of our sanctuaries, out of our pulpits. And we have to really put our heads on the chest of God to hear his heartbeat in terms of what we are doing, what we ought to be saying, and how we ought to be mobilizing. One of my associate pastors said something to me on Saturday that I haven't been able to shake. He said to me, Pastor, the only people who like change are wet babies. Everybody else wants to hold on to what it is that they know and don't want to relinquish it. That's why what it is that we're calling this encounter a mandatory transition. You're going to have to make this change. I want to challenge all of you. Clearly, everybody wasn't able to get on. We had a very short and small window. We want to keep it intimate so that it is not a convention, it's not a conference. It is really a conversation. So there'll be salient and key points that are going to really resonate with you. When you write those down, I ask that you would use hashtag GUF Zoom. Hashtag GUF Zoom. That's Global United Fellowship Zoom. We're going to ask all of our presenters at the end of their presentation, they will give you their social media handles so that you're able to follow them because they have a treasure trove of information. I want to jump right in and go straight to our first presenter for today. Our first presenter is an amazing, marvelous maverick of a woman. Michelle Obama's latest book is entitled Becoming, and she has become one of the stalwart influencers of this technological age and hour that we now find ourselves in. Nona Jones is a minister of the gospel. She is a first lady. She is a mother, is a wife, but she is one of the lead critical futurists of our time. She is a mover and shaker at Facebook. I've been graced. She brought me out to be able to tour the campus to get some understanding as to how technology works and how we can marriage technology with ministry. I'm thankful for the grace that rests on her life, but she knows really the nuts and the bolts as to how it is that we can optimize technology in this hour. And so without any further delay, I introduce to you my sister, my friend, an amazing woman of God, Sister Nona. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pastor Bryant. Thank you for calling this together. Certainly, Bishop Ellis, I thank you for your leadership in the kingdom. This is such a critical time for the church. And let me first say that when I was called to Facebook, and I literally was called, I didn't apply for my job. I serve as the head of faith-based partnerships globally. I got a call out of the blue from Facebook. I wasn't looking to work at Facebook. But they asked me to come and build their strategy to support communities of faith. This was almost 3 years ago. I wasn't sure why God called me to Facebook because I didn't work in tech or social media beforehand, but I purposed in my heart when I got there that I wanted to really understand how social technology could become a lever for kingdom advancement. And that's really the lens that I've had since I stepped into my job almost 3 years ago. Now, I had no idea that we would be in a situation where the global church would close its physical doors. I had no idea, but I like to encourage every pastor that I connect with to know that even though we didn't know, God knew. And that's why he sent me to Facebook. I have been saying for the last 3 years that I believe the more I learned about social technology, I believed that social technology and digital discipleship would become the next reformation of the church. And I said it because I saw the potential, but I think now we have been forced into this new experience, which is how do you continue to build a church when you can't see each other's eyes, when you can't touch each other's hands, when you're not able to stand in a pulpit and preach the word. But I believe that the tools that social technology can provide you can accomplish that. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to cover what I consider to be 4 key tools that you as a pastor can and should use on Facebook in order to connect your congregation and continue to build God's kingdom. All right. So first things first, your page is critical. Every church, for the most part, has a Facebook page, and that's important because your page is essentially your public presence. I want you to think about your Facebook presence like a house. Think of it like your online house of worship, all right? Your page would be like the front porch or the facade. It's what everybody sees. Everybody can have access to it. It's essentially like what everyone sees when they drive by your home. That's essentially your page. It's public. But when you have a house, you don't just have a front porch, right? Like if you only had a front porch, that wouldn't be much of a house. Well, you need to have a front door. So that's Facebook Live. Facebook Live becomes like your front door because it allows you to open up the door so people can actually come into your house. But don't stop there. See, a lot of churches have said, all right, we're live streaming, so we've solved the problem. I believe, and this is just me kind of putting on my preacher hat for a minute, I believe that that the church is not a place. I've never believed that church was a place that you go. And I think that because somehow, some way along the line, we've started to define church as a place, we've started to constrain church to what happens for 60 minutes on a Sunday.
Wow.
In fact, there's 168 hours in the week. All right. So the live stream is great because it allows you to have the episodic experience of ministry. But to live the Christian life requires you to go beyond the 60 minutes. So live is maybe the hour, maybe the 2 hours. But after you open the door, you need to be able to invite people inside. And what you want to invite people inside of is your Facebook group. All right. Facebook groups are probably one of the least utilized tools on Facebook. I was just looking at some stats the other day, and I saw that out of the millions of churches that have pages on Facebook around the world, only 5% have groups linked to those pages. So what that means is 95% of the people following church pages cannot connect with each other after the live stream ends. Now,
Wow.
in real life, we have Bible studies, we have small groups, we have conferences, we have other touch points besides Sunday. And I think that we all know as church leaders that if all you offer is a 60-minute encounter on Sunday, well, you're not really offering much. And so your Facebook group becomes the place where you can have those Bible studies, you can have those midweek prayers, you can actually connect with people. And the beauty of groups is it's not just them connecting with you. Now they see each other and they can connect with each other. One of the biggest insights my husband and I had when we first got into ministry is that your church can only grow as far as you can manage. So if you are the only one managing your flock, you can only manage a small number of people. But when you actually empower the people to manage each other, you're able to extend your reach. And so that's why groups are so important. Now, within Facebook groups, there is a powerful tool called social learning units. What social learning units allows you to do is it allows you to create sequential modular learning experiences in groups. So it essentially turns your Facebook group into a classroom, and that creates the foundation for digital discipleship. And we have to remember, discipleship is not what happens when we're standing in a pulpit on Sunday. Discipleship is what happens when people are in relationship with each other and they're challenging each other and they're growing together and they're learning together. It's the relational maturation of your faith. And so social learning units really becomes the platform that enables digital discipleship within your Facebook group. I want you to also think about your Facebook group like your online church community. So our church is not a very large church, but our Facebook group is like 3 times the size of our local church.
Wow.
Because people are able to invite their friends and their family. You're no longer constrained by physical address or city limits or gas in your car. Now your only barrier is just, well, how many people do you know? This coming week, our ladies ministry, we're having our virtual ladies night in. We're going to be streaming our Zoom into our ladies Facebook group. We're going to have games. We're going to have, food. Everyone's bringing their own food to it. But it becomes an opportunity to use technology to extend the reach of the church beyond the 4 walls. Something that we even started to do that you can do in your group is you can create learning units around member orientation. You're going to have people watching your live stream who are not located in your city, who are not in your state, many of which aren't even in your country. But they can connect to your church in your Facebook group. And because you have features like donating on live, people can actually contribute financially to the work of the ministry. And I will tell you this, and I'll pause because I'd love to get any questions on your mind, Pastor Bryant, because you're such a great thinker. We are actively building tools for the church experience. So the way that my role works, my role is both externally facing and internally facing. So I work with pastors, denominational leaders, associations all around the world, but then I also bring all of those insights to our product teams to think about, how do we enhance live? How do we enhance fundraising? How do we enhance events? How do we enhance Messenger? How do we build bots that can enable discipleship digitally in Messenger? So I'm helping them think about all of those things. And that's why these types of convenings are so important. But here's the last thing I will say before we do some questions is, it is absolutely critical that you as the pastor are also helping to lead your online church community. It's critical because, you know, we tend to build followings, right? We have these very large followings of people, but it doesn't matter how many followers we have if those followers are not following Jesus through us. We are
Wow.
meant to be conduits for the gospel, conduits for people to mature and grow in their faith. And so we have to be active. I cannot tell you how many pastors I have talked to over the last couple of months who were not on Facebook at all, who didn't understand anything about Facebook. And now they're like, now how do I do that book face thing? You need to be there and you need to be a part of it. And listen, y'all, it's not going anywhere. COVID-19 has radically and permanently changed the way that the church will operate, not for this season, forever. And I believe that that is intentional on the part of God. The reason for that is God wants to expand his footprint on the earth. And what is the easiest way to expand a footprint? It's through a platform that connects more than 3 billion people and is growing. God wants to use every single one of us during this season. So this is the time. So I'll pause there. Pastor
Yes.
Bryant, I'd love to answer any questions that are immediately.
Yes, so I've got later on this morning, I've got Roland Martin coming talking about equipment and how to use your laptop and lighting and all of that. But I want you, we are bombarded on social media almost with memes weekly of pastors who are doing it wrong. So if you can just give a few quick do's and don'ts of what is effective communicating through this measure, because a whole lot of people are trying to drag of the mantle of what they did in brick and mortar and thrust it into this, and is not coming across the best way. So if you just give a couple of do's and don'ts, please.
Yes. All right. So first of all, let me say this. You know, whenever change happens, our tendency is to try to mold the opportunity to fit what we've always done. That is the wrong way to approach change in this environment. And you have to remember, you know, previously we planned around the building. We planned around people's schedules. So we would have an event at the church at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., trying to align with people's life schedules. Well, now everybody's home all day. What that means is you don't have to wait, you know, to have a prayer meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. People are looking for opportunities to pray 24 hours a day. You're no longer constrained by the building. So one of the things that I've seen people do is they've tried to just, you know, replicate what they always did in a building online, but it doesn't work that way, because now people are literally available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, all day, all night. What that means too is you need to have leaders who are going to be supporting your, what I call your online campus, at least in shifts. You always want to have people watching your page, watching your group. You want to be intentional about the content that you're sharing. Let me give you the difference. I've seen people basically use the same content on a page as they have in a group. The page and the group have two completely different use cases. Your page, again, is your front porch. That's where you make statements. Your group is your living room, all right? That's where you ask questions. You're having conversations. So for example, when you go live, you know, if you go live on your page, fine, you want to talk about something and it's kind of unidirectional communication, that's fine. But you now have interactivity features. So there are people who are going to ask you questions. One of the things my husband and I started to do, which has actually worked really well, is when we're doing a teaching, we actually invite people to ask us questions live. We wouldn't do that, if we were in the building and you got all those people. But now you're not constrained by that. So you can invite people to ask you questions and answer them and have an actual dialogue, as opposed to just standing behind a podium and talking at people. Now you can actually have a conversation.
What would you suggest, and my own team wrestles with that, what would you suggest is the best timeline for a service? So a lot of people are trying to do it as long as what you did in the building.
Ooh.
What is the attention span data that you're seeing is best to maximize?
Yeah, so the latest data that I saw about people's attention span on social media is 3 seconds.
Wow.
So, and this is also why you want to grab people's attention immediately. So one of the things some people have done, how in service, we would have like the countdown timer, right? So we would have, hey, 15 minutes, we'll get started, 10 minutes, we'll get started, 5 minutes, we'll get started. 3 seconds in, people are gone. All right. So you want to just hit it. You don't need a countdown timer. You want to hit it with, hey, everybody, we're so glad that you're here. Let's get started. Because as soon as they see you, they're ready to get started. You have to remember, there used to be a time where if people wanted to go to another church, they had to put on clothes, get in a car, they had to drive somewhere. Now, all they have to do is just click.
Right.
Okay. So don't do the long countdown timers. Just hit it and make it high impact. Remove the fluff. Another reason why I recommend groups is I've seen pastors use the live time to like do announcements and all that stuff. Don't worry about announcements. Use your group for announcements. Use your email distribution list for announcements. Use Facebook for connections and social interaction. That's the whole point of that platform.
Can you very quickly, if you'll share whatever means and measure, again, pastors may have questions, how they can find you on social media?
Sure. Yeah. All of my social is the same. My handle is @Nona, not Nora. All right. So that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, @Nona, not Nora. You can also find me. My website is just nonajones.com. Feel free to reach out. I do always try to respond to my messages because I do believe that God assigned me to this role. So I try to be responsive, but it may take a little while because I'm obviously being flooded right now, but I will do my best to respond.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have an incredible day, and I'll call you later on. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Jamal?
Thank you. God bless you all.
Bishop, hold on. No.
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes, I still think
this is Bishop Neil Ellis. No.
Yes.
My dear, how are you? And thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful information, but I do think we need to press this point from a bit further as to how long should we do our services online. 50 minutes, an hour, what is appropriate for service now, given the content text that we're not in the building?
So listen, here's what I would recommend, because you have to remember, so in the building, it may be that, the children are in children's church, they're doing their thing, the parents are in the sanctuary, they're enjoying their time. Well, now, Johnny is like, Mommy, will you make me a smoothie? Susie is over there like, hey, can you come play Barbie dolls? There's a lot of distractions happening. So what I would recommend is try to keep it as tight as possible. So whatever that is for you, 30 minutes is like great. If you could just hit it. But here's the caveat. Here's the caveat though. If you have, it's all about engagement. It really is. So if you have, I've seen some churches that have 2-hour services and it's just not engaging. If you have like an awesome worship team and you have, an amazing word and some other things, you want to make it interactive. That's the caveat. You can do an hour as long as it's interactive. What you don't want to do is have a lot of downtime. That's why I said, scrap the announcements.
Okay,
don't do hey, this coming Thursday, we got prayer. Don't worry about that. Talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Nona.
Thank you, sir. God bless you all.
God bless you. Our next guest, and I hope you all are being blessed and equipped in what it is that we're sharing. I found out from the New York Times that 1/3 of all churches will not survive the pandemic financially. 1/3. According to latest data, and we're going to talk about it later on this morning, giving is down for the average church by 65%. By 65%. I want to pause and extend a tremendous thanksgiving to one of the bishops of the Global United Fellowship, Bishop Harold Ray, out of West Palm Beach, Florida. Many of you do not know that in the stimulus package, originally churches were not a part of it. But Bishop Harold Ray, who is one of the vice bishops for the fellowship, personally wrote in for churches to be able to receive some of that stimulus. And so I'm appreciative for his genius, his prowess, and his ingenuity of making sure that churches were able to benefit. One of the ways that we are going to be able to thrive in this climate is through online giving. And I brought in my covenant brother, Dr. Tao, who is by training a doctor and is by calling operating in this space. He is really being a blessing to the body of Christ. He is what I call an economic apostle in helping us to be able to receive our seeds, our tithes, and our offerings in this environment and in this culture. Is a Black-owned company or organization. He has made tremendous strides down through the years. Dr. Tao, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Welcome. I'm thankful for your time and your time adjustment. So if you'll tell them about Givelify and all the more about how critical and vital is online giving in this hour.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Dr. Bryant, Bishop Ellis, and other panelists and pastors who are on the call, all protocols observed. Thank you for having Givelify as part of this. So there is no doubt the world has changed, and I'm speaking now with my medical hat on. What we've seen in the hospital has been dramatic, and it's going to continue to go on. I currently see patients by telehealth if I'm not in the ICU. And one thing I realize is telehealth is here to stay. It's not going anywhere after COVID because patients have now seen that they can actually see their physician without leaving home. The same thing applies to church. Now parishioners have realized that you mean I can actually enjoy the service from home and not have to, go through the get dressed and drive. And so you're going to see a lot of parishioners who are not going to come back as regularly as before. Now, that being said, 7 years ago, my friends called me up and we started the concept of Givelify. At that point in time, obviously, there was online giving in the form of text to give and PayPal. But we looked at it from a different perspective. It wasn't just simply, can I go on a website? We felt most people don't go to websites anyway. Everyone's on a mobile device. Can we create a platform that makes it easier for people to give directly from their mobile device, regardless of where they might be? Link that to their debit card or credit card if they're fiscally responsible, and you have a person who can give whenever, wherever, however. That was a simple concept. We also looked at it from a different perspective, a unique perspective as against all of the platforms. We wanted to put the donor in control of their giving. So all of the platforms designed theirs in such a way that the church signs up, the donor now can give to that church. We looked at it from a different perspective. Why don't we design a platform where the donor can search for different churches and ministries, and the donor can use that same platform to support ministries all over the world, all over the country first, then ultimately all over the world. And not just ministries, nonprofits, and things of that nature. So your giving is all going through one platform. That was the simple concept, thinking forward that at some point in time, the church was going to change and donors would become more prolific in their giving. And I'll explain that in a minute. But that's what we've seen over the years. We've seen consistently that donors who are using Givelify are not giving to just one organization. If I can quickly share this, okay, only the host can share in this meeting, so I can't. But I'll explain what I'm trying to describe. What we're seeing is because of the new status quo, most donors don't attend just one service. Once upon a time, you get dressed, you go to church, you stay in church, you go home. Now you're actually able to watch online. So like Nona Jones explained earlier, the attention span of donors are so short that if they're not getting what they want out of that message, all they need to do is flip the switch and go to a different church. And what we're seeing consistently is their giving is following that. So, and we can see this because on the back end, we can see where you tithe, then we can see where you give offerings. So on Sunday, we have an increasing percentage of donors who are giving to multiple different churches. So this tells us that this is exactly what we predicted would happen. So our platform is once again designed with that in mind. So if you haven't downloaded the app, I strongly suggest you download the app, and you can look for your church, look for your colleagues' churches, set up a payment to it, and go through the process of making a donation so you understand exactly how the platform works. From a payment perspective, we priced it to be as economically responsible as possible. So there's no sign-up fee, there's no monthly fee, there's no activation or cancellation fee, there are no contracts. Our platform is designed in such a way that it's not going to be an additional burden. So by just having it, it's not going to cost you anything. But so long as you now use your social media handles to let people know that they can find you on it, you'll be surprised at how many people know you on social media who might be using Givelify to support their parent church, but now because they see you are listed on it, they can also support your ministry. So it's just a way of opening up further avenues to receive donations. One of the things that we added to Givelify most recently is the pastor search. And the concept simply was that we realized that a lot of people have favorite pastors or people who they like receiving the word from, but they might not know the church that pastor leads. So in other words, I can download Givelify and I know that I want to support Pastor Jamal-Bryant, but I don't know he's now the pastor of New Birth. Well, we've designed the platform in such a way that once you've set up your app and you've added yourself as the lead pastor, the donor can actually search for you by name. So it's not just a matter of searching for the pastor by the name of the church. I can simply type in Pastor Jamal-Bryant and I can find him, or Bishop Neil Ellis, and I'll find him. So that's another thing we've added to the platform to make it much easier for the donors to find and support churches that they want to. On the donors end, it keeps a record of all your giving, regardless of the organization that you gave to. So at the end of the year, I don't have to wait for all these multiple different letters thanking me before I do my taxes, which obviously is a big deal for most of the donors. It's all recorded on your phone and you can print it out and use it for your taxes immediately. Those are the main, let me also add that we've added some additional features taking into consideration social media. So we do have giving links that you can use for Facebook. So you can post these during your Facebook messaging. You can pin it on your Facebook page, so it will act as a donate button. We have this, similar links for YouTube as well as Twitter. We're getting one ready for Zoom. So we're offering multiple different avenues for people to receive their donation, not through the app. So in addition to the app, website giving, social giving, and most recently, we've added what we call Snap to Give, which is simply a code that once projected, someone can capture it on a phone and give directly through it without having to download the app. So we're continuing to innovate different ways that people can get their funds to you. And I'm going to take a pause here in case people have questions that they might want to ask.
I want you, to talk about the trends of giving since the pandemic.
Thank you. That's a very amazing point. So one of the things that we've seen for churches that were already using Givelify, already listed on Givelify, and had already onboarded their members and trained them in the art and how to give electronically, what we've seen is the opposite of what we're hearing in the media, in the sense that funds are going in the opposite direction, donations are going down. What we're seeing is the complete opposite. for churches that had already established themselves on our platform, what we're seeing is an increase in giving by upwards of 25 to 30%. What we've also seen, as I mentioned, is the polylythic giving activity that we're seeing, donors donating specifically to one church, but now giving to multiple churches. One of the first things we realized was in-church giving has dramatically decreased by 97% across the country, obviously because of COVID. What we're waiting to see is that as cities and states open up, is this going to grow back to the original percentage? Our expectation is that regardless of them opening up the churches, you're going to have people who are afraid to come to church. You're going to have people who have resigned themselves to the new normal. You're going to have people who actually enjoy being at home and watching the service via streaming. So you're going to still see a decrease in the number of people who are physically attending churches. But as Nona explained, that doesn't attend to people who are actually watching you. So physically being in church does not equate eyes and by correlation donations.
For pastors and churches who pre-pandemic were not really engaged in online giving, how best do you see the model of churches making this transition?
Thank you. So same thing applies, whether you're physically in service or whether you're streaming. And that's one of the reasons why I suggested for those who are watching to download the app themselves. Download the app, find your church, and go through the process of making a donation so that you can see how this works from the perspective of a donor. Then you'll have a better understanding of how to educate your donors and how to use it. We have video tutorials that also explain how to do it. They're very short. You can always post it on your social media links. It teaches people how to use it. But to answer your question directly, it's really about how you request and ask and constantly let the donors know that they need to continue to support you. Even though the churches are closed, the bills need to continue to get paid. Most donors already understand this, but they still need that additional nudge. If you don't ask, you'll still get from the traditional givers, but keep in mind that some people do need that extra push. Without a doubt, as this recession starts to take a firm hold of the country, we're expecting that we're going to start seeing a decrease in donations across the country. Now, that will typically affect the more traditional giving, which is tithes. But with spontaneous gifts being I'm watching the service, or I hear a certain message that speaks to me and makes me decide at that moment I want to give. That's one of the powers of Givelify. Because you have it on you're watching it on a device and your mobile app is ready to go, you can give instantaneously. So we expect that to continue. And we can always I can always provide follow-up data to show exactly what we're seeing. But there's no doubt we're anticipating with this recession that we're going to see a drop in giving nationwide.
Dr. Taylor, you have pastors on throughout the diaspora, the Bahamas, the West Indies, the UK, Africa. I'm seeing on the screen, is this apparatus available globally? Actually,
it is not. Currently, Givelify is only limited to the United States. However, that being said, my partner and I had a conversation yesterday after talking to your personal assistant, Bishop Ellis, and them explaining the need for us to expedite this. So we're actively working on trying to get our platform to pretty much expand worldwide. So that's now a major priority for us.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because you've been a partner with us with Global from inception.
Yes,
and this question has come up several times. So I guess this is one thing I can say, thank God for COVID-19 for. Because it now become a priority for you. I'm so grateful.
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. If you'll give our viewers how they can get more information about Givelify, please, sir. Sure. So simply go to our website, givelify.com. Givelify is spelled G-I-V-E, give, L-I-F-Y, for giving simplified, magnified, electrified, whatever adjective you want to give so long as it's holy. And
you'll see where it says sign up in the right upper hand corner. You click on it and it walks you through the process. Sign up is less than 5 minutes. It costs you nothing. You can also follow us on our social media links. We're GiveLify, Facebook, Instagram. And we have, in the last couple of weeks, we've been doing our utmost to try and get information out there. We've had webinars regarding the PPP program. We've had webinars regarding how seminars on web streaming, live streaming, and how to effectively use GiveLify. So I do encourage you to follow us and get up-to-date information, not just regarding that, but also in regards to new additions to our platform and our products.
I'm very thankful for you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And
My
thank
pleasure.
you for what you're doing on the front line as a healthcare provider in this fight for COVID-19. Just very quickly, putting on your doctor's hat, is there anything you would tell us as pastors and clergy about COVID that we ought to arm ourselves with dealing with this pandemic?
Most definitely. Thank you for allowing me to share that as well. So my training, I'm a critical care physician, pulmonologist. In other words, I'm literally on the front line. I have patients who are currently intubated in the ICU, and unfortunately, I have had to take people off the ventilator and go through that process. And there's no doubt what we're dealing with is real. There's absolutely no doubt. I'm going to encourage you as much as possible to glean your information from the CDC website. Try as much as possible to avoid listening to what you hear on the news or on social media, because quite frankly, a lot of what is being put out there is misinformation. This is a real pandemic in every sense. It's the worst we've seen since the Spanish flu. And we do not have vaccine, and we will not probably have a vaccine until sometime next year, which means that COVID will continue to ravage the nation and the world, unfortunately. Now that's number one. So by all means, please continue to maintain social distancing and protect yourselves. Now, in addition to that, one of the things I always stress is that COVID is indeed a ravager. And what I mean by that is not so much as in COVID is ravaging on its own, but it's also consuming all the resources in the hospital. Elective procedures canceled. Usual things that we would pay attention to, uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, they're being missed. We have patients who have chest pain that don't come to the hospital because they're a little reluctant or afraid. All these other things are also being impacted by COVID. In other words, the death toll you're seeing, 80,000 plus, are death tolls directly related to COVID. The death tolls that are as a direct consequence of this pandemic, we can't count. And I always encourage you guys, please take care of yourselves, because this is not the time when you want to have renal issues, you want to have kidney problems, uncontrolled diabetes, or your hypertension getting out of control. For those who do have chronic illnesses that are on this call, please manage it aggressively. Pay very close attention to your blood sugars, your blood pressure, exercise, eat right, sleep well, get enough rest. Anything that's going to keep you out of the hospital for the next couple of months, you definitely want to pay attention to it. So you're fighting two battles, not just protecting yourself from COVID, but also protecting yourself from other common illnesses that's going to carry you to the hospital. And with that being said, everyone, please be safe.
Thank you. Blessings to you. And thank you so very much for all you do. I'm praying for you. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Friends, on Sunday, Mother's Day, we were graced at New Birth to be able to apply almost 2,000 COVID-19 tests. And people pulled up to the church, and it was a mobile testing center. And a young lady, I was a little apprehensive because of the nasal test. And she said to the doctor, "Is this gonna hurt?" And the doctor said to her, "It's not gonna hurt as much as COVID-19 will." What I wanna say to you is my next presenter is gonna make you very uncomfortable. She is bringing cod liver oil and the tetanus shot of what it is that we need to do in this transition. So brace yourself. She is going to ruffle feathers. I just appreciate her brazen daringness and her brilliant mind. She is a critical thinker for this age and for this hour. Sister Dr. Breonna Parker. Bree, come on, it's your turn.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to be with you this morning. It's a critical time for the Black church, and I don't think anyone is surprised by that. Everything is disproportionately affecting Black people right now. If Black people in the US were dying at the same rates of white people at this point, we would have at least 7,000 more Black people living today.
Wow.
Just as that is disproportionately affecting the Black community, the Black church is disproportionately affected. When this all happened and everyone was trying to create tools, many people were creating tools with white evangelical churches in mind. It was immediately, what do they need? You know, they can't have smoke, no more lighting. What do we do next for evangelical white churches? And every time someone approached me, I said, if you don't have something for the Black church and Black community, I don't want any parts of it. Because I realized at this point, we have to hear our own voice. I became a researcher because I realized when I was doing my doctoral work, I could find whatever I wanted on how many Black people were in prisons, how many Black people were on drugs, how many Black people were in poverty, but I couldn't find positive statistics that would help to get us where we needed to be. And so Black churches were always shooting in the dark, trying to figure out what was next. And we've come to a place where we've realized that everything has changed. Everything is tilted. 3 months ago, cash was king. Today, data is the dandada. If you don't understand data today, your church is going to fail in so many areas. There are churches who are alive and well in the moment because they don't have to pay their mortgage because that's been suspended, or because they've been able to furlough their people. When we are able to even go back into the church, which I think that's something that we should even tell quickly all the time, but when we're able to go back in the church, you are going to realize if you are not using data today to figure out what's happening with your congregation today, there will be nothing to go back into. The mortgage will resume, but the people will not come back. We have to get to the point where we realize this is greater than just, okay, we have a pandemic in the moment. Today, we have the opportunity to change our future, and many people are not ready to make the change. And if you're not ready to make the change, unfortunately, you're going to be like Blockbuster in a streaming world. Blockbuster used data to make sure that they could meet the needs of their people. When they sold it to Viacom, Viacom did not buy into that in a way that allowed them to be successful. And so I understand this took many of us by storm, but you don't have the opportunity or the luxury to catch up in this moment. In this moment, you have to run with whatever is going on. We created tools. We partnered with the tech company to make it hear from the Black church. If you participate in data, that's your voice. If you are creating data, that can be your brain. As soon as I linked up with the tech company so that we could create tools so that we could hear from the Black community and Black churches individually and collectively, I called my city councilman. I said, hey, I have this poll that we've created to make sure we can survey churches, make sure pastors can survey churches, make sure artists can survey their fans, make sure conference conveners can survey their guests. We made sure that we had everything we needed, but I realized my city was hurting. So I called up my councilman and I said, hey, I need to put you on this platform. It is indeed for churches, but we have a community feature. So I want you to get on and see what you can do for the community. Councilman Thomas is making sure he looks at our data every single week for Dallas so that he can decide where he's putting his funds. There are a lot of people who have needs right now, and those needs can be met better with numbers. This is not the time for us to decide what we like, what we agree with, even try to figure out if Jesus is in Facebook or Jesus is in Instagram. We have to get to the point where we are willing to try and take the risk to figure out what is going on. You don't have the luxury of deciding that church will be church again. It will never be the same church you've known. And right now we get to see in national polls, 57% of the pastors are saying that they are willing to go back into the church before social distancing measures have been lifted. This is problematic. You know why? Because that's not what Black pastors are saying. That's a national poll. That national poll is full of white evangelicals who do not have a community who is dying. But we look at those types of polls from people who are my friends, like people at Barna, and we make a decision and say, oh, if 57% of the pastors are saying they're going back in before social distancing is ready, then we're going to make sure we go back in too. because that is not what everyone is doing. That is what people who live by country clubs and people who know that they have the opportunity for better health care are doing. Black people have to get to the point where we realize that it's not just healthcare that's disproportionately affecting Black people. Everything will disproportionately affect Black community. So what do you need to do? You need to do a number of things. You need to be able to get in touch with the people in your community. At this point, data can be your pastoral care director. Data can be your youth pastor. Data can be your eyes, your ears, and your brain. You don't have to make decisions without knowing what is actually true today. And so I have clients who always tell me, when can we go back in? And I say, okay, look again. If you have a church that fits 700 people, but you can only put 120 people in and only 90 people want to go back, is it worth it for you to turn the lights on? We have to make decisions based on truth and not saying, I know my people love me. I know my people, they do love you. And I know they want to see you. But we've had praise and worship people yelling at us for the last 5 to 10 years. Worship God for yourself. Don't look up here at me. Learn how to worship on your own. Well, guess what? We got it. I've been worshiping God on my own in my home. I have to come back to you. Here's the thing about church. And my friend, Pastor Welton will be on, and I know he's going to tell you this, but we have been talking this entire time about what is necessary for people. We have learned how to do church without being in the building. Now, the goal is going to be to learn how to disciple throughout the week, learn how to do pastoral care throughout the week. Data is going to help you do that. You do not have to shoot in the dark. You do not have to make decisions on your own. If you want to know when it's time to go back into your building, poll your congregation. If you want to know what your community needs and if you should have some type of virtual summer youth program, poll your community. Stop making decisions based on what you feel or what you sense, because you can't feel people anymore. You can't sense what the people are saying the same. And so at this point, we have to get to the point where we have the advantage, and data is your advantage. We have to get to the point where we're no longer saying that we're so spiritual that we don't need numbers. You need numbers. And if you don't get data as your numbers, don't worry about your giving, because the numbers will be. At this point, people are making decisions based on finances, and we're not even looking at those numbers well. When I ask churches, how are you doing financially? Because I get to see the data behind what is happening with churches and if giving has increased or decreased. When you ask white churches if giving has increased, they say yes. When you ask Black churches if giving has increased, they say no. Sometimes that's not true, because white churches are saying, based on the expenses I have and the income that I have, giving has increased. They're not saying it's necessarily more than they've ever had before. They're saying that there's some expenses they don't have to pay anymore. And we have to look at it like this. We're going to have to repurpose our buildings. We're going to have to make some new decisions about what's going to happen virtually. We have to make some decisions about what is sin and what is tradition. When I walk through this with my clients and we talk about sacraments and things like that, they said, when we talked about baptism, I said, well, you're going to have to decide if immersion is going to be best or if you're going to sprinkle. What are you going to do? Many of them said to me, we're Baptists. When they were Baptists, we immerse. I said, that is fine. To God be the glory. Our church is not going to go for that. They know we're Baptists and they want immersion. I said, to God be the glory. How'd they do with communion is not supposed to be given by any regular random parishioner. That's supposed to be done by ordained clerk. That's how we've always done it. But when the pastor said we need to do things differently, the church agreed. So don't put your own traditional values on your church. They barely know doctrine. Whatever you say is going to be necessary in the time will be fine. You think someone's sitting around looking saying, pastor ain't got this right? No, they care more about what you look like, that we don't have to see up your nose when you have your camera. They do not know what's supposed to happen with baptism right now. They do not know what's supposed to happen with communion right now. But if you really think you run into an issue, you poll the people and ask them yourself. We have to get to the place where someone was telling me they had bylaws that said people couldn't become members virtually because you have to have the right hand of fellowship. I said, well, you have to take an emoji and let them take an emoji, high five each other so that they can have the right hand of fellowship. It's a pandemic. We can't do things the way they've been done before. So what am I telling you need to do? Well, you probably need to hire the Black Millennial Cafe. Ding. But if you don't hire the Black Millennial Cafe, you need someone who is going to strategize with you and for you. When we sit down with people, they want everything from integration plans to new virtual discipleship to what pastoral care looks like. You have to decide, and not in a bubble. You have to make a decision with professionals or strategists who are going to help to get you where you need to be. And as Black churches and communities, I'm going to ask you to sign up for free, not free later on, not free today, and it's going to cost you later on. It's free. It's weeklypastorpoll.com/BMC. That's weeklypastorpoll.com/BMC. When you sign up on the network, you can do polls that are, you can add custom questions if you don't have them, or you can do a completely custom survey. And if you don't know how to do that, call the BMC and we'll help you. We Black Millennial Cafe, and we'll help you. You don't have to stay in the shape that you're in, because it's polling data wants to help you get back together again. Okay? weeklypastorpoll.com/BMC. Your congregation what they need. Find out what your community needs, so that you will stop wasting your resources. We cannot afford to be Blockbuster in a Hulu world. Any questions for me, Pastor Bryant?
Yes, I want you to talk about the engagement of millennials, because I think there's a great opportunity to help transition a lot of these churches, that they don't have to bring in an outside tech team. Their young people know how to do it. And so I want you to talk about that for just a minute.
Absolutely. So there's something that I call, we have to figure out what's in our own home, in our own community. We have to do our own evaluation of what's there. And many times we have said no to everything a millennial wanted to do. But today it's important that we're going to allow millennials to lead us and allow people who are just good at tech. Some things that we've said no to and said it was sin, it was actually tradition. So at this point, it's time to get younger people, young adults, millennials, and Z to the table to have conversations about what's next and what's necessary. We're at the place where we need to stop at this point blaming people. If you have an issue with millennials and who they are today, who raised them? Who gave them choices? Who told them that they could make decisions on whether or not they wanted to go to church, what they wanted to eat, what they wanted to wear? At this day, we have to realize you created the Frankenstein. We created these young people that we somehow don't know how to get along with. And that's actually pretty Western itself. That's not even something that Black churches and communities have known, but somehow we caught on to this generational divide and we have stopped leaning on each other. It's time for us to stop deciding that we're going to hire a full communications team to come in and take over something that they don't even know. Find the value within your church. Call a meeting today and ask millennials who are excited about helping where you need to go, how you need to get there, and how they want to participate in it. It is completely disrespectful for you to hire young adults from outside of your church to then talk to young adults within your church to figure out what they want. Evaluate who's in your church, what they have to offer, and let them fly.
Bree, you are an absolute genius. I love everything about you. Would you please share with all these pastors how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. My social media is REV_BRI, Rev_Bree. And my website is irunbmc.com. That's I Run Black Millennial Cafe, BMC.com.
I appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Bishop, you have anything before we move?
No, just want to thank her for sharing with us today. This is wonderful information. And I know our pastors will make good use of it. And you look good too.
Oh, thank you.
Bye, Bree.
Bye.
I am thankful for all of our panelists, our absolute geniuses in their lane in the areas in which they serve. Our next guest is really a prophet ahead of his time. You all know him for many years in CNN. He has been one of the most outspoken, opinionated, fearless voices in our community. I really believe he's a runaway preacher. He went from CNN to TV One. And after leaving TV One, many people were jockeying for him to go back into mainstream media. And he felt a call to go into independent media, and is really one of our lone loud voices for issues that are important to our community. Last year, many of you in Global were able to interface with him in the Bahamas. And he's with us today right outside of the nation's capital. Please help me welcome my big brother and friend, Roland Martin.
All right, folks, how are we doing? Can everybody hear me and see me?
We can hear and see you. Good morning.
All right, so here's the deal. So some of y'all are probably saying, man, why does his camera look better than everybody else's, and why does his audio sound much better? Because here's the deal. One, I am not actually using the computer for the purpose with the camera on here. So you'll see this is the computer right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch for you just to show you. Let me switch the camera. Now this is the computer camera. So I don't know. I don't particularly like the Zoom stuff. So it doesn't give me the option to, okay, I wanted to flip something. So let me just turn it around. So what you will see is, this is me. This is actually an actual HD camera. So the deal is, I don't particularly like because you see part of the problem is that when people, you see this here, all of a sudden you see people, you looking up their nostrils and everything along those lines. And so for me, you have to think about video from the perspective of just like you do it all the time. And so you want it to be quality video. And so that is, I use an actual camera. I have a green screen studio it's in my home. And so the lights and everything along those lines. But you do need to be thinking about just the quality of what you're doing and kicking out. So basically, how am I able to use this here? Well, there's a video capture card that I can connect from that camera, HDMI out of that camera into a video capture card. Elgato Cam Link is one of them. There are others which then plugs into the laptop. So when you're on Skype, you're on Zoom, your computer is recognizing the external camera. That's important because the computer is limited. If you want to be able to have, let's say, your wife or husband or kids, whatever, now I got to be able to have something that allows me to zoom out and I can come out. Well, having an external camera does that. The audio piece is also important. I cannot stand all of these calls where the audio sounds horrible, sounds very hollow, sounds like you're talking in a vaulted ceiling place. It is very grating. And so trust me, I have sent links to numerous people. Jamal will tell you he got one as well. And so again, a very basic lavalier microphone. This is literally $19.99. You can connect this lavalier microphone to your computer. You can use this lavalier microphone with your iPhone, with your iPad. It does not matter. But there is something that most important, a lot of people don't understand. When it comes to the computers, you have to also understand that, and this is just some basic stuff, but it needs to have these three rings, these three little rings. I'm going to switch this camera here. It needs to have these three rings, which is important, which allows for you to use for a phone. So you see those little three black rings right there. That is what allows for you to use a device with, let's say, a phone, iPad, or computer. That's critically important. Otherwise, ain't gonna work. Why is that important? Because you don't want people to be distracted with your presentation in terms of just the audio. Bad audio. You could ask Teddy Riley and Babyface in the versus battle what bad audio will do. It actually drives people away because it drives them crazy. And so again, their basic lavalier microphone has come with a 72-foot extension. So therefore you can run it across the room. It works fine. And see, I believe in interchangeable items. I don't believe in a single usage. So if I'm buying a lavalier microphone, I want to be able to use this with my computer. I want to be able to use it with my phone, with my iPad. It does not matter. And so that's important. Now, remember, I showed you the camera here and you saw that I have this on a tripod. Okay. Why does that matter? I'll turn this back around and you will see, okay? Because look, what you don't want is to sit here, you're trying to talk, you got a phone set up, is leaning against some books, you got it leaning against something, and all of a sudden it falls down, topples over, and now it's shaky or whatever. And so you want just a nice quality tripod with 3 legs, so that way you're stable. Your base is actually stable when you are doing whatever your video. And see, again, this gives you the flexibility. Everybody's going to be sitting in a chair like we are right now. You might want to stand up. You might want to stand up and do whatever your presentation. Having the flexibility of an external camera on a tripod allows you to do that. If you're limited to a computer, that's fine. It's no problem. But just understand it has limitations to it. When I talk about also, if you're using a phone or a pad, you need to be able to have something that gives you elevation or height. So this is a great, it's a ready cam tripod. Okay, I love this tripod because one, it extends out, and so I can actually go higher. It allows for me to be able, I can sit this anywhere. So you see it's high enough. You see the little adapter I have on here for me to be able to hold the phone. It's great as well. I have another one sitting over here. It allows for me I can actually have the phone to be horizontal and vertical. It all depends. But this is a great all-purpose tripod because it can sit on a desk. It just works perfectly, and then it gives me eye level. So you see, if I was using this for the purpose of communicating with the iPhone, as opposed to this computer, because the iPhone has the iPhone's camera is a better quality camera than the MacBook computer camera. And so if I use this here, I'm now eye level with the people who I'm talking to. So it's not where all of a sudden they're looking up in my face. It's not where it's too high. That's what I want to do when it comes to the camera. iPads. This is an iPad holder. This is real basic. This is great because it allows for you to be able to put this on a tripod, and you can hold your iPad. It can be vertical. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal. And again, it's a basic device that gives you everything that you need. The reality is here. You don't need to sit here and run out and buy a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You can just determine, what am I doing? Okay. How am I communicating? What am I using all this stuff for? And that is, if you're sitting here doing a Bible study and you're more comfortable just sitting in a chair, looking at the computer, that's fine. But what I want you to do with the computer is to elevate it. So I'm going to use a guinea pig. So you look at Welton, and if you look at Bishop Neil Ellis, their computers are set too low. So Bishop, what I want you to do is I want you to get some books, large books, place them under your computers. It's a laptop you're on, Bishop Ellis?
I'm on an iPad.
You're on an iPad, okay? So
right.
so perfect example. He's on an iPad, and he's probably on an iPad holder, which means that thing is like this here. So the only view that Bishop has is it, frankly, being up like it is. So you're seeing more ceiling than you are him. So if Bishop Ellis got one of these, and then the little stand, it can actually hold it. So now he's more eye level communicating again, and then that way it's a much better look. It's a much better background. It just looks a lot better. You also realize I'm talking on a lavalier microphone, but you're saying, how can I hear? So I have the AirPods in. You don't have to use the AirPods for the microphone and to hear. When you go into Zoom, you can actually change the setting. In the audio setting right here in Zoom, it said, select the microphone, select the speaker. This is selected from a microphone. These are selected for my speaker. I also have some other wireless earbuds, Soul Republic wireless. I got these Cronies wireless earbuds. Folks have given me all this sort of stuff. But again, I like this because I don't like the audio where I'm talking and I'm listening through the same device. Also, a lot of times when you start hearing the echo, you start hearing the feedback. So what happens is it's actually sending. So when someone is talking, you're listening, but then it also coming back through your microphone. And so it's sending and receiving. It's just like a loop. And so that's why I like to keep it separate. It's real basic. So now let me go. I'm just going to go a little bit higher. So here's the other piece here. Most people have no idea what their internet speed is. No idea. So you're probably sitting there going, why is it when I'm sitting here, my stuff is choppy or is breaking up? Because more than likely, the internet speed is low. So you need to download an app, okay? So what y'all want to do is go to speed test. Speed test, okay? I want you to download it for your phone or iPad and your desktop, okay? Why is this important? If you don't know what the speed of your internet is in your home, then it's certain stuff that you can't do. Now, you may have a great download speed. It may be very high, 200, 300 megabits per second, okay? But the key is, what's your upload? See, download is you're sitting at home, you're watching Netflix. So you're downloading data. What we're talking about, we're uploading data. So you may have a great download, but a horrible upload, your video is going to be bad. Your video is going to be bad. And most people never check it. I check this all the time. How many times y'all check into hotels and y'all pay for that premium internet and it sucked? Yeah, because they're lying. I busted many hotels promising a high internet speed and you want to charge a higher amount of money. Then I run that test and I'm like, y'all know y'all making people pay for some basic crappy internet and I'll get that refund. So I keep the speed test app on my iPhone, my iPad, also my computer. Now, this is an Ethernet device. Okay, this allows for me to be able to plug the Ethernet up to my laptop. How many of y'all watching right now are on Wi-Fi? So Bishop, you're on your iPad, you're on Wi-Fi. Jamal, what device are you using?
I'm on my iPad Wi-Fi.
You on the iPad, okay. Okay, who else? So all y'all now understand. Y'all might say, hey, I'm on a pad. Guess what? You can use Ethernet with your iPad. You might be asking me, why am I going to run a cable? Here's why. Your Ethernet is faster than your Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is basically you're trying to pull a signal. Ethernet is hardline. It's a much stable connection. And so if you're able to go Ethernet, that's the best thing to do. Jamal right now is looking at me like I'm crazy going, yeah, but I got an iPad. That's why they got this thing right here. This is an adapter. This allows for you. Now, some of y'all also don't learn the power to charge your stuff up. It's all good. Guess what? This allows for you to plug up your power and your Ethernet at the same time. This, so you turn your Wi-Fi off, plug this into your iPad. It gives you a much stable connection because what you don't want is you don't want to be in the middle of a Bible study or the middle of a sermon and all of a sudden your signals drop in. Now you got to log back on and people are trying to connect, frustrated, and now they're gone. So you want to have the most stable connection that you possibly can. And so this little adapter here is called a RJ45. And again, allows for me to run an Ethernet line in here and I got my power. Yo, I'm all good. Everything works fine. For me to communicate, I can just connect my AirPods to my iPad. Now I can hear, now I can talk. Everything is all good. You obviously can't connect an external microphone because you're using the port that does that. But again, you can use wireless headbuds to serve that particular purpose and you're all fine. I know this is real basic, but people literally don't think about it. They use their devices all day and then all of a sudden they have a stream later and don't even think about charging it. And so that's why I've got about 10 of these. I've got portable way wherever I am. I have it sitting next to me. And so if I need to plug it up right there, I'm not trying to plug it into a wall. Okay, a lot more portable. So that's why I do this here. Just a few more things. Lighting. All right, y'all. Here's the first thing. So let me look at y'all right now. Okay, so Brianna is fine. You see she's up against a bookcase and more than likely, Brianna, what do you have, a ring light? What kind of light do you have?
No, I actually have a light that's behind me because I used to do videos like
There you go. So y'all might be saying like, man, why does her light look that way? Because first of all, here's the first thing. She's not shooting against light. What I mean by that is, so you look at where Jamal is. Okay, so you look at Jamal. Jamal has that light that's on the left side of his shoulder. He has enough lighting so he's fine. But a lot of times people are shooting and the lights behind them and you look like a silhouette, you look like a ghost. Okay, you got to shoot with the light. You got to shoot with light. So what you prefer is not to really have a light behind you. You want to actually turn where the light is hitting your face. Now you can use natural light. No need for you to use another particular light. That's important. So and so that you want to learn to understand lighting. But let's say you say, okay, fine. You know what? They got those ring lights. You see them all the time. Those things work well. But the reason I don't particularly like the ring light, again, I can't take it somewhere else. All right. I believe in having portability. So Newer makes this little nice light right here. Why do I love this light? Because one, it can sit on the tripod. It can sit on a little thing, but I can take it with me. I can put it in the bag. I can take this to the office. If I'm in a hotel room, I got my light with me at all times, as opposed to that big ring light, and I got a big contraption. Now you might say, okay, it's the why this light? It's real simple here. Has a little dimmer on it. Light, I can increase the intensity. Now it's real bright. That's why I like this little portable little light, because it's simple. It can sit right here, right above your computer, even your laptop, give you enough light on your face, and you're perfectly fine. And so that's just real basic. Now, somebody might say, since we're sitting here, might say, well, man, you're on this green screen. Normally I put my show logo behind me, and let's just do it. And I haven't fixed the saturation, everything like that. I don't want to mirror my video. So it allows for you to be able to go with all of these different backgrounds here. And so their system, I hate their system. I don't use that. I use another different system. But this allows for you to be able to change your background. That's why you have the green screen. But what you have to decide is, what am I really trying to use this thing for? The three most important things: a stable connection, great audio, great lighting. Three most important things. You'll be just fine. I can easily send, I put together a Google Doc with a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to live streaming in it that you can access, or I can just send this here. But again, keep it real simple. Don't try to get extra. Don't try to do too much, because there are limitations to also what software you're using, limitations to Instagram Live, limitations to Facebook. And so you need to understand what those limitations are. But again, three basic things: great connection, great lighting, great audio, then you'll be good.
Can you very quickly, Roland, people are asking the question, you went by it quickly. Give us again the name of that portable light and the name of the microphone.
Oh, this is so the portable light, this is a Newer, Neewer CN216. There are some other lights that are slimmer and they're great, but this for me gives off a much more powerful light. I can put also a soft box cover on it to soften the light, and so that's why I like this as well. And you might say, well, soft box. So this right here, I'm gonna switch this here. These are soft boxes. These are large soft boxes. This is a large, so you'll see, perfect example. This is a large Newer panel, but that's that small light right there. And so I can do with a little like tripod, I can do whatever. That thing can light up a whole lot of space, that one little light by itself. But it's a Newer CN216. I love it. I've got about 6 of them. And so I use them in different ways. And so it's just a really great light. It requires a battery, or you can, as a power cable that you can actually get as well. But it works just great. And again, for me, everything is portability. I just don't like buying gear that I can only use in one place at one time. And so I'm not a particularly fan of that.
Roland, what is the
then you said something else. You said something, use another device. Which one? You said light, and what was the
microphone you held up earlier?
Oh yeah, the lavalier microphone. Let me pull that up. I got it from Amazon. I've sent them to a couple of people. Let's see, go on my orders.
While you're pulling that up, Roland, what is the #1 mistake you're seeing preachers make in this space?
The #1 mistake is they have absolutely horrible audio and video, and it just kills everything. And just look, people are not expecting broadcasting standards. Look, we're not, but what they are expecting though is just decency. It just has, it has to, you can't, it just can't look and sound bad. And I have seen stuff, because it's a turn off, because you like, okay, I can't listen to this. I can't watch this. And so that's just basic. So what you want is, if you're going to use a laptop, again, I want the laptop to be eye level with me. I want to have some decent lighting. That way I'm seen, I'm not dark, all this sort of stuff along those lines. I want that connection. That's the most basic. This lavalier microphone it's a Power DeWise, POWER DEWISE. It's this one is $39.99. It comes with a 72 inch extension, and again, it's plug and play. It can use with any iOS, Android smartphone, and so it's just a really great lavalier microphone. Gives you great quality, and you have no issues with it. And again, you're not sounding hollow. So I'm on another Movo hardwired lavalier microphone right now that's plugged into this camera here. And I will show you this here. So some of y'all, let's say now this getting a little extra. I don't want to get too extra, but I want you to. All right, so we did this here. So I changed this here. So I unplugged the deal. What you see on that camera, that's a portable teleprompter.
Wow.
A portable, that little bitty thing is a portable teleprompter. What that portable teleprompter does, it has a remote control. This is the remote control right here. So I could put my script on an iPhone or whatever, and this little tray opens up, slides on, and I can sit here, and now I can read whatever I got on the script, controlling it with this here as I do my show.
What's the name of that?
It's called Parrot. Parrot, P-A-R-R-O-T, the Parrot teleprompter. Folks, let me tell you something. When I travel and do my show, I do my show from hotel rooms, from when I have speeches. This thing is awesome because I can put the I can put the script in, everything like that. And the Parrot teleprompter is like $99. I think this is like $39.99. But this is awesome because there are times when you got a whole lot you're trying to say, and you really have this thing scripted out. This is great because even if let's say you're at church and your camera is mobile, and let's say you're walking through the atrium or whatever, that prompter's there. You still can control it where you're actually reading, and you can literally increase the speed, decrease the speed, fast forward, rewind right here with the remote control. So I mean, it's just great, and it's lightweight. It comes with different adapters to fit on whatever kind of camera you have, and so it's just a great teleprompter. So
I appreciate you, Roland. Tell the people how they can follow on your platforms, please, and how they can watch your show.
Of course, we stream Roland Martin Unfiltered every single day on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. And the best way those do it on YouTube. You can access us anywhere. And we're 6 p.m. Eastern. We go 6 to 8, and then of course we restream it multiple times in a 24-hour period. And so y'all can support us there. We got our people who join our fan club, and so they give via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. That's important because our goal is to remain independent. That way nobody controls us, owns us, don't tell us what we can and cannot do. And so that's what we do every single day. We keep it real and keep it black.
I appreciate you. Roland, if I can indulge you, if you'll send me a list of these products that you've given to me, and all of you who have registered, we will email out to you in the next 48 hours the list of all of those products. I appreciate you, big brother.
Cool. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you, brother. Love you. We're appreciative. We hope that you all are gleaning a whole lot of helpful, useful information and tools that will help you navigate through these unprecedented times, so that you will really leave your thumbprint for your ministry in the earth. The apostolic aid to our presider, Bishop Woodson out of North Carolina, said we can't have this conversation about transition without including Anna Everett. And so she is really chopping down trees in the marketplace to really help us to make sure that we are recognizable and we are relevant. Anna, are you there? Anna? Ms. Everett, are you there?
Hold on, let me see if I can get her back.
While we're getting her back, is Pastor Welton in the queue?
Yes, sir, Dr. Bryant.
All right, let me go straight to you, Pastor Welton, and we'll circle back to Sister Anna. This is my little brother, Pastor Welton Smith IV, out of Detroit, Michigan. He is making monumental moves and really corralling millennials and young adults and Gen Xers into the ministry. And so let me go to you to present now, since you're here.
Man, thank you, Dr. Bryant, for not just this opportunity, but so many others to share with yourself, along with Bishop Ellis and Dr. Bree and all of our contributors today. I mean, I've enjoyed today's conversation, and one thing that we consistently hear being confessed is that the world has changed. I agree with that, but the truth is the world didn't change for now. The world has changed forever. And that's a truth that the church has to digest. We have to discuss what the return to church looks like in the face of a changing world. We're not saying the return of church, because the church never shut down. I believe what happened in this season, God closed the church up so that he could open the church up again. But as our church doors are closed, the hearts of people are open in a different way everywhere. But as we prepare for how to pivot in this new normal, we've got to be real about the fact that as we're preparing to face what we think church looks like in the face of this famine, the truth is there is going to be a healthy hesitation in the hearts of people as far as not just the return to church, but the return to large gatherings. We've got to be real about the fact that not just for church, this season has affected all of us in a way and altered our existence subconsciously, whether we know it or not. There's going to be a healthy hesitation in the hearts of people concerning returning to large gatherings. And so as we're looking for that, this is a great hour for the church. A lot of people are wondering, well, where does the church fit in the future? The world will always need the church. The challenge is this new normal might place a demand for a new method of ministry. The mission of ministry belongs to God. The method of ministry belongs to man. This season is the hour of the innovator. I believe it's like Genesis 26, that when Isaac found himself in this famine and he found himself in this barren land, the Bible says before Isaac could find success, he had to settle in a land he probably didn't want to be in for too long. That while many are asking, how do we come up with a plan? How do we come up with a strategy? The truth is, the first thing we've got to do is settle in this season and assess where we are. As we look at what's happening now, the church doors have been closed, so the method of ministry has changed, but the cross has always been bigger than the building. So those that are innovators, this is the year or the season that innovation is going to help you find your next flow. It doesn't look like it looked before. Normal, people keep saying, well, I'm waiting for us to go back to normal. Normal is not behind us. Normal is actually ahead of us. Progress never goes backwards. It always continues forward. And so as we're catching up to what normal looks like, I think we have to be really realistic in our expectation of people's return to church. We have to be clear about the fact that, matter of fact, Genesis, Isaiah 40, I love the way it says this, because this is the moment that many of us really can't miss. That for the kingdom, it's a moment of supernatural access and opportunity. Isaiah 40 says what God does, and I believe this is what's happening now. He's brought the high place down and he's brought the low place up. So for the first time in a long time, the high place and the low place are actually the same place. In 2 weeks' time, we've seen the mega church and the storefront church rise and fall on the same level. That now the black church and the white church are still at a place of equal footing. That now we're in a spot that nobody's been in before. So there's no such thing as people that can tell you what to do. This is a season where you got to be willing to hear God for what you're supposed to do, and then have courage to dig until you find it.
I want you to talk about some of the innovative approaches that you've implemented there in Detroit, in a city that was already pining to keep its head above. If you'll talk about some of the approaches and the effects that you have seen from it.
Okay, well, ministry looks different in this world. Now, the rise and fall of ministry isn't on the Sunday show. For so long, churches survived off of music and message, where now we are in a moment where churches will survive off of message and ministry. Who would have ever thought we'd reach a moment in time where your food pantry was more important than your music ministry? Wow. That we'd reach a point in time where now people are more concerned about your serving than your service. That now we have to recalibrate the purpose of church space as well as church budgets. There are so many of us that have access space. What we've done here is, as we've seen so many other pastors and churches struggling, trying to find some kind of flow, as Dr. Bryant brought up, everybody's camera up in the nose and the eyes and all that kind of stuff. So what we decided to do was, since we have all this space, we decided to repurpose it and build studios that, while we have individuals in our church who have had to be small business owners, who have had to close their doors, but while their doors are closed, we're trying to create an opportunity for them to still kind of find the flow in the midst of it. So rather than sitting on a whole bunch of dead space, what we've done while we're talking now, there's a whole nother crew on the other side of our building that's building green screen studios, all different kind of spaces that you can rent and come in, pull up, plug up, speak up. You don't have to worry about the cameras. You don't have to worry about the lights. Like Roland Martin said, yeah, we have all of the hardwire, Ethernet things in all of these different buildings to make sure that all day today. I've got somebody in our church that has mastered a hair growth product. Well, she can't open her shop anymore. So what we decided to do was build a studio where when you walk in here today at 2:30, I've got an entire camera crew that's on site waiting to present your product in a way and on a level of excellence. As they've been telling us, nobody wants to sit and watch you on Facebook Live with the smoke detector still going off and the bathroom light hanging down behind you. The truth of the matter is, we've got to find a way to present in this pandemic and still do it in excellence. So we did that. And at the same time, every Saturday, while I realized that many of our members have lost jobs, their income has been affected, the truth is, there are a lot of people that's holy, but they still hungry. So every Saturday, what we did was we decided to give away groceries every Saturday, not just this month, but all month. And here in Detroit, just because we wanted to give life to the locations connected to us, we put the grocery store on the road. I take the grocery store every Saturday to a different business that's represented in our church, so that then becomes a means of connection, not just for the church, but also for that individual business in their area and community. So every Saturday morning, we do those things to make sure that we're able to serve people in areas where they need it the most. And so whether it be our studios that we're putting together, a few weeks ago, we understand that hospitals were overwhelmed. So on Good Friday, when I couldn't have Good Friday service, rather than having to say the last words, We went to 7 different hospitals, took $7,000 of lunch, the frontline workers of every one of those hospitals. And since they would not let us in the hospital to pray for our loved ones, like in the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel said, God, I've been preaching, I've been praying, I've been prophesying, but these bodies aren't breathing yet. So God told Ezekiel, since the bodies can't breathe, prophesy to the wind. So on Good Friday, rather than us having Good Friday service in the building, we went to 7 hospitals and told people all over the city, pull up to whatever hospital wherever someone is that you believe in God to heal. And for 15 minutes, we're going to honk for hope and pray that God would release healing. Now, what was crazy, Bishop Ellis, is we pull up on hospitals' grounds on Good Friday. Well, then Sunday morning, they announce on all of the news outlets that Detroit's got to get ready because a windstorm is coming. The truth is, we're in a moment where we now have to take spiritual authority over a natural disaster, that while in fact, this is our normal for a while. People keep thinking this is normal for now. And even as pastors, we got to be careful not to condition our members that this is just normal for now. No, it's not normal for now. This is normal for a while. So rather than fighting against it, Dr. Bryant, what you're doing is so necessary because it's giving us a means and a method to settle in it with a different perspective. If you change the way you see it, it'll change the way you survive through it. Wow. The church has changed. John 17, Jesus prayed a very unique prayer that we've taken for granted for quite some time. He said, I pray that you give your disciples wisdom on how to be in this world, but not of it. This world changes every 2 to 4 years. The church changes every 12 to 14 years. What's important that we understand is that the world we live in now is no longer physical. The world we live in now is digital. The challenge is, this is the first time that the church, or for those of you that are writing, taking notes, this is important again. Every time culture changes, 2 things will happen. Value systems will shift, and Christianity will have to answer new questions. Every time culture shifts, value systems change, and Christianity has to answer new questions. Now, what do you mean by that? This is not a church problem. This is a world problem. The church has got to stop acting like progress is picking on us. The world is digital, okay? Malls all over our world are closing. Why? Because of the internet. Bookstores are shutting down because of the internet. There are so many entities that we're used to going to that now, because of the shift in the earth, now what was physical is now digital. The problem is, this is the first shift, Bishop Ellis, that has disrupted our church culture. This is the first time that now there was a world, right? There was a world when the world was open Monday through Saturday and everything shut down on Sunday. That was also in a culture that was driven by honor. We are now in a culture where Sunday is the new Saturday. There used to be a day where we would greet our elders, yes ma'am, no ma'am. There would be a day that, Jamal, if I saw you with your mama and wanted to fight you, I would tell you, man, I'm gonna whoop you, but I'm gonna whoop you once you leave your mom. Now we're in a day where they're gonna whoop you while you're right there with your mom. The truth is, whether or not we like it, what God has used, and again, everything God allows, he uses. I do not believe that God is responsible for this pandemic, but he will get glory out of it. What God has allowed, or what this moment has forced us to do, is it's really forced the church into the future. So what has been disturbed is not the church's calling. What has been disturbed is the church's concept. Callings belong to God. Concepts belong to man. Whether we like it, love it, or hate it, Acts chapter 2, there was a revival that happened, but it happened in the house. See, the truth is, there is a revival that is happening right now. People keep saying revival is on the way, revival is coming. Don't believe that. Revival ain't coming, revival is here. How do you know revival is here? People in our churches are praying more than they've ever prayed before.
Yes, sir.
They're seeking God more than they ever have before. Now,
Yes.
here's the challenge. The stress that was put on the pulpit from the pew is the reality is church became more social and strategic than it was spiritual, to the place that we're trying to preach to people who don't read the Bible. We're trying to lead people who don't have a prayer life. And Bishop Isaac King, who died last year, said something to me a few years ago. He said, son, I know you're new at pastoring, but remember what I tell you, that there's certain problems you will never have out of people that's really got the Holy Ghost. What God has done is he's really forced the church to find him in a place that we really stopped looking for him a long time ago. And that's in the home. There's a revival still taking place. And even in this new world, the future still requires the church because the church is the light. The calling has not changed. The concept, meeting every Sunday, 3 services, that concept has been disrupted, but the commission is still very much intact.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Pastor Welton. Bishop, you were saying something. I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
Oh, no.
All right.
On.
Very good. Sister Anna, are you here with us? We were having some technical challenges. Anna,
Yes,
are you
I'm
here?
here.
All
I'm
right.
here.
I'm thankful you could join us. Our apostolic aide spoke well of you behind your back. Bishop Woodson did and said that there's no way that we could proceed without allowing you to chime in. And so we're grateful to have you. The floor is yours.
Okay, I appreciate you guys allowing me to present to you today. I wanted to talk about the virtual church and how we're moving as a result of COVID. But before COVID, I think it was important for churches to start looking at other ways to cast the wider net to help, people have opportunities to begin to fellowship. And so streaming, I think, is critically important to that. And I think electronic payments is another infrastructure that is important to that. Before COVID, 27% of all members of church don't give because they may be away from a service and don't have an opportunity or a vehicle to give. And so you have a lot of opportunities with tools like Givelify and those things to help make sure that the church gets the resources that it needs to take care of its members. And so in my thinking, I've always tried to figure out a way to help build and support the church and bring economics into the church in a way that was passive. And so I thought that payments, the payments infrastructure could, extremely be beneficial if we could create a vehicle to allow the church to participate in that whole giving infrastructure. And so we developed a platform about 10 years ago where we started to look at giving and see how we could leverage that infrastructure to create a vehicle to help, build the church community in terms of participating in that system financially. So we created an app some years ago that allowed for churches that participated on the platform to receive income from that platform by the users who are actually donating to the church and not sharing back the money that the user was given, but the money that is earned by the acquiring entities, for the money that is made by the bank, Visa, MasterCard to share back. And so we found that that was an important vehicle, and you could, earn a tremendous amount of money when that was done. And I wanted to figure out, how do you tie that to other interfaces and other realities of the church? So I thought that live streaming, the church's bookstore, your educational ministries, the pastoral counseling, all of those key components that you see at really strong and good churches, that we could bring to a virtual environment and then create an economy behind each of those infrastructures, but not just an economy for its internal membership, but to take those services that the church normally offers to the community and start to be compensated for those services through this virtual church platform, which would allow the church to sustain itself long term. So we came up with the God is Good virtual platform, which basically has an economy behind each room of the church. So you start at a fundamental level, which is the payments infrastructure, your ability to receive money from others for any of the services that the church provides. So those services that the church provides, you're able to be compensated for those, and not in the compensation. When you look at, say, your store, for instance, members are allowed to buy your books, your services, and all the other commodities that you may offer. But when they pay for those services, they don't just pay you, they pay an infrastructure that lies behind you. So what I'm saying is you should share in that revenue that's being spent in your environment. And that revenue becomes a passive stream of income and earnings for the church. Your counseling ministries, those are services that are billable that many agencies pay, especially like right now with COVID. There are bereavement and grief services and all kind of counseling ministries that could be leveraged where the healthcare network is no longer as strong and the only resource available to the community. And so a lot of people go to the church for those same services. And those are billable services that can be passively built just from somebody logging into this environment and talking to your ministry leaders in your counseling ministry leader. So we just put a comprehensive environment together with the core services that the church offers. And if your church doesn't offer it, you don't add it to your building. You just offer those things that you offer, and there's a way to monetize those services on the back end. And it's passive, so it's not like you're, like undermining or polluting the church by making it an economy, but you're creating a vehicle to sustain it beyond just being a traditional service provider. Now with grants, there are like the percentage of grants being given out to community organizations who are 501c3s has decreased by almost 70%. Faith-based organizations typically aren't even included in those giving infrastructures. So this creates a way for the church collectively to sustain itself. Now, it can't be done one church at a time. It's when you have a collective group, like everyone in the fellowship participating on this platform. And then that money can be shared back into that economy and then split amongst the churches in a way that is mutually beneficial for all. So all we're doing essentially is leveraging what you already have, allowing you to take that which you have in brick and mortar, cast a wider net to bring more people to Jesus, and provide the services to your membership virtually, and then beyond your membership to the community that needs them so much. And in doing that, you bring more people to Christ. Yeah.
Anna, how can get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with us at solutionsae@yahoo.com or team, TEAM, at solutionsae.com.
Solutionsae@yahoo.com is the email.
Uh-huh.
And then what is the second one you said?
Team at solutionsae.com.
And I'm appreciative for you, and thank you for helping us enlarge the net and making a deeper and a greater impact. Thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to partnering with you and all of these pastors who are on. Are appreciative for your sacrifice as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to be excellent stewards of our time. We know that you all are in the midst of quarantining, and we have disrupted your commitment to Netflix and snacking all day just to infuse some information and power. I cannot close without us getting our final charge and a prayer of covering and grace from our presiding bishop, Neil Ellis, who had a burden for churches to be able to find themselves on strong ground. He was literally sleepless about the state of the church. The church is not just Mount Tabor, but the body of Christ at large. And Bishop, I'm grateful that you entrusted me to really work through the rhythm of your own heartbeat for this to come to pass, and grateful for your guidance and your leadership. We'll hear our closing word and prayer and benediction from our presiding bishop, Bishop Neil Ellis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bryant. And you have guided us well today. And thank you for coordinating all of this on our behalf. And we salute you today for a job well done.
Thank you, Bishop.
Please convey our gratitude to all of your presenters today. Everybody did such a stellar job, and this information has really been useful for all of our people, I'm sure, today. I think we could walk away from this with several conclusions, Dr. Bryant, and that is the world as we knew it at the beginning of this year has changed. Obviously, COVID-19 global pandemic has taken what was normal and made it abnormal. And now we are in search of a new normal because we've been able to conclude today that that normal is in front of us. We've got to search for it. It has disrupted our lives, our work, our play. It disrupted the way we gather socially, recreationally, religiously. It has taken what was normal and made everything abnormal. I'm not going to say much today because I want us to walk away with the information we've received, but I do want to point our brothers and sisters again to a message that I distributed on the 9th of April as a result of an encounter I had with the Holy Spirit on the night of April 6th, going into the morning of April 7th. So I want to direct them to YouTube to go ahead and get that message and listen to what I believe the Holy Spirit is saying to us. But I want to emphasize here, Dr. Bryant, before we close, that the Lord, in my humble view, has shifted the foundation of the world's systems. And in doing so, he has reset the agenda of the church. And in order for us to understand what that reset agenda is, he has driven our people into a time of isolation. And I believe that's what this shutdown has been about. It's the time for us not to spend all our time on Netflix, Dr. Bryant. Yes. Or on eating all day. I know you were trying to give us a glimpse into your agenda daily, but trust me, you're not alone.
Yes, sir.
I believe this time, really, God has given to us in the body of Christ to spend some time with him so we can have a clear understanding of what this reset agenda is. It's also important for us to, as we pay attention to what is happening with the church globally, that we become very, very sensitive to what it is God is saying to us as it relates to the people he has put under our charge. So it is important that at this time and in this season, we incline our ears to the voice of God, to the mouth of God, because I believe he is sensitizing the ears of the faithful to the frequency of heaven. And so I want us to recognize, and I believe most of this have come out during the call this morning. There are three groups of people basically now in our congregation we've got to pay attention to upon our return to the sanctuary. Number one, you have that, what I'm calling can't wait group. They just can't wait for the doors to open so they can get back into the sanctuary. But there's also that not ready group. That group who loves the Lord, loves the church, loves the pastor, but they're uncomfortable. They're not ready yet. They don't feel safe to be in large crowds or in small spaces with a group of people. And then there is the new normal group. They're the ones who all of a sudden have discovered that they like what they're getting now. They like viewing us online. And a percentage of our membership, Dr. Bryant, more than likely are not coming back to the physical structure. That does not mean they're disconnecting. It just means we have to find a way to minister to them where they can remain connected. So there are 3 words I want us to walk away with. It's the word courage. 1, we've got to be courageous in this season. Number 2, competence. We have to be competent in this season. And 3, which is made up of 2 words, critical thinking. We have to have the ability and the desire to become critical thinkers in this season, because the world as we knew it has changed, but the church as we knew it has changed. And God has reset the agenda. We've got to be open to what the Spirit of God is not only saying to the church at large, but what he is saying as relates to the changes we've got to now affect and put in place with the congregation he has placed in our charge. On that note, I want to pray for our brothers and sisters who are on the line. And thank you once again, Pastor Bryant, for the tremendous job today. And let me also applaud you for the great initiative on last Saturday for the testing of thousands of people. God bless you, and God bless the work that he has assigned to your hands. Now, Father in heaven, we are so very, very grateful of this tremendous opportunity that you've given to us to serve you by serving our people. And now, Lord, as you've shifted the agenda of the church, you're calling us now into a new mandate where we must recognize that we have a charge to keep and a God to glorify, but a wonderful opportunity to be creative. So I pray that in the midst of this crisis, that you would take control of our minds and cause us to think, to be critical, to be courageous, and to be competent in all that you've assigned to our hands. So speak to our hearts now. Speak to our spirits and cause us to go away from this Zoom call today inspired, determined, and committed that we will not be left out in this new season of the world and the church. So until then, may God's grace and God's mercy rest with each of you now and forevermore. And everybody say, amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. Be blessed to all. Be safe, everyone.